back now, not as chair, but probably as an observer. Maybe you could begin by telling us what brings you back to the African Union.
Well, as the former chair of the African Union Commission, I have an obligation to attend all summits. I get invited to all summits. It's just that I haven't been attending the previous ones, but I decided to attend this one. But also there are side events about Agenda 2063, where I was speaking yesterday and I will still speak tomorrow.
Interesting that you talk about Agenda 2063. This is your brainchild. Now we need you to tell us this far. Would you say that the continent is on track to meet the goals and the aspirations that it set itself?
Well, it's early days, but as you know, Agenda 2063 is divided into 10-year chunks. We're looking at the first 10 years. And it's interesting because some of the countries have reported the 10 years is still got a few years to go. But some countries are actually doing very well. We were looking at some of the scores yesterday. Some have scored up to 70%. Because what we are doing, we're looking at the goals of Agenda 2063 and where each country was in 2013 and where they are this year on those goals. Others are not doing so well, but some are not able to tell because they do not collect statistics in the areas where the goals are and therefore are not able to say and give data to the AU to say, here we were in 2013, here we are now. So one of the lessons that we are learning is that statistics is so important. Countries must collect their data. But also there are challenges that are emerging. Countries that seem to do relatively well are those who have domesticated Agenda 2063 and made it part of their national plans. Because then when they report on their national plans, they're also reporting on Agenda 2063. So we're encouraging those who haven't domesticated to do so. Then the statistics is also a big challenge. Of course, there will be budgetary challenges, but also transformation of economies is very important because part of the Agenda 2063 talks about manufacturing, industrialization, and beneficiation of our minerals and our natural resources. So that's another very important aspect of it. So also women and youth, whether we're able to implement the skills revolution. Some of the countries have done well. There's a country that has built about 30,000 schools to ensure that kids are able to go to school so that they can achieve the skills revolution. So it's a very mixed impression.
Who is doing very well and who is doing very badly?
No, I'll say countries like Rwanda are doing well, countries like this country, Ethiopia, are doing well, countries like Cote d'Ivoire are doing well, and many others. But there are some that are not doing well.
We set ourselves as a continent a 2020 goal to silence the guns. Here we are. We have at least 17 conflicts, active conflicts on the continent. Can we really silence the guns by the end of this year?
Maybe not, but what is important is that we brought the focus to the guns, that the guns must be silenced. Whether they are silenced this year or next year or the year after, but the important message is that the guns must be silenced. And there must be campaigns and programs to silence the guns. We can't just leave the guns going without any attention.
When you look at the conflicts, some of them you left them when you were still chair, they're still continuing. What are we doing wrong as a continent? We talked about African solutions to African problems. We are mediating some of these conflicts. Some we are even getting international partners to mediate. What are we doing wrong?
Well, let me say that part of the conflicts are fueled by people who feel very marginalized, who feel that they are not part of the economy, they are not part of the democratic processes in those countries, so they have no hope. When you have no hope, it's very easy for people to attract you towards guns, towards conflict, or even to start conflict, because you can't see your future in the dispensation. So that's why Agenda 2063 does not just talk about guns, but it talks about jobs, it talks about skills, it talks about economic, it talks about manufacturing, industrialization, because those are the things that will give people hope. If they have skills, they can get jobs. If they've got jobs, they have a stake in the future of the country. So it's very important to see that connection and not take the guns only, conflicts only, because if we don't solve the other problem of unemployment, poverty, inequality, conflicts will start.
And finally, when you were chair, you spearheaded the formation of the Africa Center for Disease Control, and it worked very well when it was response for Ebola. Now we have coronavirus. Do you think now we have the capacity to deal with our own health problems? Do we still need assistance from outside?
Well, I think it's important that every country prepares for the eventuality of any disease. But the Africa Disease Control Center is important in mobilizing, coordinating, and making sure that it can also mobilize resources, particularly for those countries that may not have adequate resources. But also, it's a center where the reporting will happen so that we know, all of us, what's happening about a particular epidemic. So I wouldn't say we're 100% self-sufficient, but I think we've moved quite a lot from where we were.
Should we allow international partners, and by international partners I mean partners like China and the US, to actually be part of our CDCs? Because right now we've read about a controversy between China and the US, where the US is warning Africa that it should not let China in too much into the formation of our CDCs.
I think we are a sovereign continent. We should decide what to do with our CDC.
And finally, looking where we are and looking ahead to 2063, what can you see?
I can see a lot of momentum gathering around Agenda 2063. I can see that if we start measuring where we are, that will give us an impetus to do better. Because if you don't measure, you don't know where you are, so you relax. Whereas if you measure and everybody is measuring, then I think that will give us a lot of momentum towards a positive implementation. But I think all in all, we are happy that we have this blueprint, and now we have a framework for reporting. I think progress is being made.